Good evening and welcome to the New York Symposium. I'm Diane Sayre, independent candidate for U.S. Senate on the LaRouche line, and it's September 20th. And we are in a totally unbelievable situation, both globally, domestically, locally. I'm going to start with a couple updates from the election, since today, September 20th, was the day that everyone was supposed to be able to go down and check out their ballots. And I did that, and I'm going to show you a couple pictures, some of which you'll be able to see. Let's see here. This you'll be able to see, I think. Right, that's visible. That's me at the Rockland County Board of Elections, where I went today. Suzanne Klebe, my campaign coordinator, called and said, we didn't get a letter. Every county is supposed to send a letter announcing that 50 days before the election, you can go down and, as the letter says, and I think whoops, that's the actual ballot. Here's the letter. Notice to candidates and party chairs for 2024 election. And you can see right here, point number 2, inspection. I don't know, Dave, if you can zoom in a little bit. Oh, you are, good. Inspection of sample ballots. You will have an opportunity to inspect the ballots to be used in the general election. The ballot inspection will occur on September 20th, 2024 at 10 a.m. So first of all, this letter from Rockland County never got sent. I didn't receive it, but we had gotten letters from many other counties, and we knew that according to state election law, you're supposed to be able to go and inspect the ballots 50 days before the election. Today is 46 days before the election. When Suzanne called, they put her on hold, scurried around the office, told her that the ballots were on the website. They weren't on the website. Then finally they said that I could come down if I wanted, but they'd be perfectly happy to email them. Clearly, people don't go and inspect the ballots. I would urge everybody to go to your county board of elections on Monday and insist on taking a look at the ballot. Now, here's the Rockland County ballot, and this is the ballot actually for my precinct, which is number 39. You can see it up there on the top. And Dave, if you zoom in on that left edge of the ballot, you can see the office. The first column is presidential candidates. And I heard in the courtroom where Kennedy was still fighting, or Team Kennedy was still fighting for ballot access in the state of New York, even though he has suspended his campaign. But there's a reason in the state of New York to get ballot access, because a presidential candidate receiving 2% of the vote or more can establish a new party. And I think virtually everyone would agree we need some new parties, or to get rid of them altogether, which is my view. But New York is one of very few states, maybe the only state, where there are only 2 presidential candidates. Out of 350 million people, we could not come up with apparently anything other than Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And then you see on the Senate line, and here's where it gets hopeful, we have Gillibrand, and she is a clone of Hillary Clinton, warmonger, intelligence asset, and Mike Sapricone, who is a former NYPD detective, got written up about 5 times on excessive use of force and coerced a false confession out of some poor person who spent 21 years in jail wrongly. That's a Republican nominee. And then there I am, Diane Sayre. So it should be easy to find. It's the LaRouche line in the Bronx, in the 15th CD. You will see, you see there a few boxes down, the congressional candidates in my district. We do have 3: Mondaire Jones, warmonger Democrat; Mike Lawler, warmonger Republican; Anthony Bresconi, who I'm going to have to look up, working families. I don't know him. Maybe some of my guests do. I'm curious to see if he presents a good alternative to those other horrible candidates. At any rate, that's what the ballot looks like. Now, there's something else on the back of the ballot, and I didn't succeed in getting it up here, but I just wanted to alert people. Proposal number 1, an amendment to protect against unequal treatment. But that's odd because we already have laws against discrimination, against discriminating against people because of sexual orientation or gender or age or ethnicity or religion. So what is this? What is this new law? And I will tell you some of what's involved. Here it is. What this new law means by non-discrimination is things like, should minors have the right to irreversible surgical and non-surgical transgender procedures without parental notice or consent? In other words, when they talk about age discrimination, they're saying that a child under 18 should be allowed to make all kinds of decisions that they're not allowed to make right now without their parents knowing, including on things like questions of, they say, should statutory rape laws that protect against sex with minors be weakened? Should laws that determine the legal age to purchase and consume alcohol? In other words, this is like a free-for-all for gigantic mega corporations and big pharma and otherwise to take advantage of children. And people should vote no on this, but I will read you the wording and you will hear how deceptive it is. Number 1, an amendment. They say, quote, this protocol would protect against unequal treatment based on ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, and sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, and pregnancy. It also protects against unequal treatment based on reproductive health care and autonomy. So, of course, everyone hearing that would say, well, yes, of course, we shouldn't discriminate against people. But if you actually read and then they threaten you, a no vote leaves these protections out of the state constitution. These protections are in the state constitution. I'm going to start sharing. I can tell you, as a founder of a 501c3 organization, my organization has to comply with all kinds of correctly non-discriminatory measures. This is designed to open the door to really just continuing taking advantage of people on behalf of billionaire organizations to destroy them and destroy their health and destroy their mental well-being. So no on that. And it's sneaked onto the back of the ballot so no one's going to see it because that's how they sneak these things through. So I want to alert you to that. Now, otherwise, let me just say where we are. The big picture is, as Scott Ritter put it, on Saturday, we were 72 minutes away from potential thermonuclear war. What did he mean? That there is enormous pressure to tell Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine that he can get long-range missiles to strike deep inside of Russia. And Putin has already let it be known, and everyone can consider, if Russia was arming Canada and someone is saying, oh yeah, let Canada hit the national capital, let Canada hit all of America's nuclear power plants, we would be pretty alarmed. We probably wouldn't want to go along with that. So if we're going to say, oh, let's let Ukraine strike deep into Russia, where 1 out of 6 people was killed by the Nazis, and people remember this in their families, and they say never again, you are courting. And Putin already said, we know Ukraine does not have the know-how to guide those missiles, to target them. It requires encrypted satellite information from the United States or the UK. That makes the United States and UK party to the war. That means you have officially a NATO war with Russia. Hello, everybody. That's World War III. So what happened? the Russians opened up a back channel to get through to the US Department of Defense, the military, the people who actually fight the wars and not the political hacks like Tony Blinken. And they said, can you please get through to President Biden that if he gives permission and he says, go ahead and use whatever we give you and you can hit anywhere in Russia you want, that it's over. Russia will be forced to respond. Russia will hit targets in NATO or elsewhere. And so Biden had a very short meeting with Starmer, the UK prime minister. People may have seen when he came out of it, and people said, what about Putin? Oh, I don't care what Putin says. He was really enraged. He had to tell the British, no, you cannot use long-range missiles to hit anywhere you want in Russia. But today, the European Union, or yesterday, I guess it was, voted that Ukraine should go ahead and strike anywhere in Russia they want. Now, happily, the European Union does not have binding power. But what I'm telling you is it's very dangerous. And the question of nuclear war is not even being made a major American election issue. And that's crazy. That is something the president decides. And Americans don't know. They don't realize that all of our lives are actually on the line. If we lose that battle, it doesn't matter what we do on anything else because none of us is going to be here. So this is the backdrop. Now, what is the driver of the war? And that's why my guests this evening are so important. The driver of the war is the economic collapse. It is the billionaires and Wall Street and the City of London who are desperately trying to save their system. They foolishly think they can save their system by looting everybody, particularly what was the middle class, the working poor, and bailing out this bubble. And I'm just going to share a couple other slides here. I think my guests will have more on this, but oh, here we are. Suzanne has included this quote from John Mudd, one of my guests we'll get here, who says, the question of what kind of city we want cannot be divorced from the question of what kind of people we want to be, what kind of social relations we seek, what kind of relations to nature we cherish, what style of life we desire, what aesthetic values we hold. From David Harvey, Rebel Cities. And I just want to say a couple things about what's happened in the state. And this is a picture from the book, a book by Massingale, John Massingale, which is very useful because this is New York in 1900 and it shows all these ports. And I was recently a co-author of an article in Executive Intelligence Review, and I'm hoping I got this yet. Yeah. So manufacturing jobs in the state of New York have dropped massively. And what's amazing is from 1840 to 1960, the state of New York was the #1 producing state in the whole United States, 120 years, our state. And you can see these important cities here, by the way, all on the Erie Canal, Syracuse, Buffalo, I guess Binghamton, no, South Binghamton not, but Utica, Syracuse, Buffalo, Albany, New York City. These cities, the manufacturing, the industry between rail and the Erie Canal, an incredible transportation grid. New York City had over 750,000 manufacturing jobs. It now has 57,000. So think about that. What does that mean? Here's what it means. From 1999 to 2023, look at the collapse in manufacturing jobs in the state of New York. It went from about 770,000 manufacturing jobs down to 450,000, so nearly a 50% cut, and that doesn't even go back to 1960. And then over here, New York State drug deaths explode from 1,000 to close to 7,000 drug overdose deaths. So I don't think this is an accident. I think these curves have a relationship. They have a relationship between the standard of living, the sense of mission, the sense of purpose. And I think it's really fundamental to what we're going to be discussing this evening. So with that, as I said, I have two guests here this evening, and I will say, as always, participation in the SARE for Senate Symposium does not constitute endorsement of any political campaign, but my guests are here simply to let the voters know what is happening, to allow them to engage in an informed electoral process and making informed demands on their elected officials. So we have Jacqueline Lara, who is a Fulton House advocate and resident. And then we also have John Mudd, who is with the Midtown South Community Council. And I would like Jacqueline to go first and tell us what is happening with the Fulton houses and how is that related to this collapse, and welcome. And I do have a couple pictures and images if you want any, just tell me.
First of all, I just wanted to know if there's any way you could take a picture of the back of that ballot and can you share it on the, share it with us? Because that's so important to at least let everybody know that's going to be voting. Is that on all the ballots, New York City?
It's on all the ballots in New York State. Yes.
Oh, state.
So yeah, I can, while you're talking, I'll get it together.
Put it in the chat. Yeah, you can put it in the chat. I appreciate that. 2019, de Blasio was administrating, and they wanted to demolish two buildings, which was Building 1, and then we have Building 11. And, we had a big protest. It turned out good. He decided to, the pressure was on him. So he decided to put a working group together with the elected association. He gets to pick out 6 people, which it was not fair because that's not even. Anyway, it was really unfair. The elected officials were in their community board 4. All these people at this working group, and it was to give a solution of how we could fix the physical needs of Fulton and Chelsea. So the working group started, I think it finished about 221. The RFP was 366 million. And Related, I guess, won that bid, the RFP. From there, they're supposed to turn Rat Pack. He was supposed to convert to Rat Pack. And before you know it, I can't figure out how this all happened, but they proposed demolition. So we're like all shocked at that. So now we're back on the protesting and fighting all this. And it's 22 buildings they want to demolish, make 2 high rises of 39, 40 floors. And we have in total between both developments, about 5,050 residents. And he wants to put us in 3 buildings, Fulton, and 3 buildings in Chelsea, and then the 70% would be market rate. So this is what's happening here. There was a survey that went out, and it wasn't a binding thing. It was just a suggestion how people would feel about reconstruction, or do they want to stay in their unit and just get the construction out of that? But there was never no demolition on that survey, so they're trying to hold that survey as a vote. The total, NYCHA says that the total of the residents who wants demolition is 500. And we have a petition now that has over 800 signatures that they don't want demolition.
So hold on, I just want to make sure I have it right. There's 5,000 people who live there?
Between both developments.
Okay, and 500 support the demolition.
According to
them, and that's
right.
10%.
Exactly.
Right.
So they're saying the majority. So since we've been pressuring them that this is what it was, and the working group, it was like almost 3 years, I think, the working group. And the conclusion was no demolition. We returned Rat Pack, no demolition, but since there was no signing, no recordings, no minutes. So now they don't want to use what the working group suggestion was. Um, it's just a lot of mumbo jumbo. They think residents are dumb, and I've been here for 22 years. I was homeless with my children in the street. I had to go into a shelter, at least for them to protect them. And I refuse to give up my home. And my home is beautiful. I have no mold. They keep saying that our buildings are deteriorating. And the only thing that's deteriorating, in my opinion, it's the greed of money that I feel like everybody's getting paid for. My elected officials, it's like they're reading a manual script. They all reading the same script. Like, oh, the residents are living deplorable. Nobody here lives deplorable. No one. And if they did, I would go with them to court. And I tell them that all the time. We put in a ticket. We give each other 3 weeks the benefit of the doubt if there's not an emergency. If they don't come, then we go to court and we'll put a ticket and they'll take care of the situation. And I've had 2 elected officials come to my home, Tony Simone and Eric Botcher, and they know that there's nothing wrong with this apartment. Absolutely nothing from head to toe. And I just don't get it. And we have 371 mature trees and thousands of baby trees, and it's a mess.
I have some pictures of it. Maybe I'll just share them and you can say something about it here. There, is that visible?
Okay. Yeah, these are high risers. We have 3 high risers.
So those are part
That's
of what,
built in.
would those
that
be
would go
demolished?
down. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They don't even look bad. I mean, they look like they're in decent.
Well, I mean, if you was to come and visit them, they would look even better. Yeah.
I think I will. And then this is about the plan to demolish, privatize and demolish in 2019.
Yeah, de Blasio. See, they began
Right.
the working group, like I said. And
there it talks about you. Okay.
uh
Okay. So you've succeeded for 4 years. And then this is just these are the trees and
and this there's another high riser. There's 3 high risers. There's 11 buildings here. 3 high risers are 8 and 8 short buildings, and the short ones carry the 3 to 4 bedrooms. So there's only 3 apartments in each floor. The high rises is the first floor, and the high rises are 5 bedrooms, really big. It's a big apartments for families that have 6, 7 kids. And after that is studio, 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. That's the high rise.
Okay. So I see the trees and everything. It's
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those trees give us shade. They give us oxygen. Everybody loves them. I'm constantly taking pictures of our trees, and I don't think there's anything really wrong with these developments. It's all, a land grab. That's what it is. At 22 years ago, nobody even thought about this. Like we didn't mean nothing to them. We were just a development here, living our lives day by day. So
right.
Now we're being threatened by demolish, which we don't need that.
No, I think there's a lot of it, and maybe John can say a little bit about, because this seems to be a trend across the city. And you do have these, I mean, I was at Beth Israel Hospital, as you know, where Mount Sinai took it over. And this was an 800 or 799, let's not exaggerate, a 799 bed hospital that Mount Sinai took over in 2013. And the co-chair of the board of trustees at Mount Sinai is in the Goldman Sachs real estate group.
Oh, wow.
And so they asset stripped the hospital, and they say, oh, it's not making enough money. We're going to have to shut it down for real estate. So it seems to be a trend. But John, you're on top of this farther, so maybe you should go ahead and share your thoughts on all of this and what's happening and what was happening at 30th Street where we all were the other day as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put John, I'm gonna put my camera because I'm eating, so I don't want you guys see me stuffing my face.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I get that.
but I could hear you. Thank you. Kelly hear me too.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks very homey over there, right? You got trees, the air to breathe, sit. It's good for healing, and they want to strip it all away and jam us up into these tight spaces, and they want to basically rape the land. This is what this sort of thing, what's happening with NYCHA is I think this is really the battleground, one of the biggest battlegrounds here, because it did a lot when they built them, and it did a lot to curb homelessness, did a lot to raise people's wealth, and I think they've pushed, of course, the limits of your rental costs. They ask for 30% of your income. I think that's way high. I think it doesn't allow a person to grow. And I think what we were trying to do over, and I think we brought a lot of people together, and we've been talking about it, and we're thinking about doing it again, of course, the next year, and building upon it. And this is what I expressed in some forums I did earlier in the year. We brought people from the health industry, had a lot of conversations about the health industry. We brought people from the housing, the homelessness, to public housing, to development, and we even went broader. And this is thanks to you and Mimi Rosenberg was there from her building bridges, and Jose. We went beyond my expectations. Development is at the core of a lot of problems here. It's the cause of homelessness. It's the cause of stress and cost burden, and it's really destroying us. And they're doubling down on policies. But what you've done is you connected the dots with what's happening overseas, and which is very important. All the money's going over there, and they're not doing anything for us. They're using New York City as a piggy bank, and they're funneling that money out of the system, out of the tax coffers, and they're stripping us down to bare minimal, and they're going to continue. And that's what this economic system does. It urges them to do this sort of thing. They're talking about, we're having a meeting next week with Related. They called me, wanted to get together with my board in Midtown South. Related wants to put a casino over on the west side. They're also the company that wants to demolish NYCHA, and they all know each other. And Vernada wants to redevelop. They wanted to tear down 20 million square feet in around Penn area. So they make money by demolishing and by building, and that's what they're doing overseas too. They want to demolish all that land, take it over, and build it up. Money, money. That's what they're doing. They're siphoning the money. The casinos. We know what casinos do to a city and state. We've seen it. We've got history. We've got loads of information on that. We don't have to look far. We can look at New Jersey. We can look at Vegas. It doesn't do anything for us. It doesn't build a community. It doesn't. I had a meeting over there, and I'm sitting in a meeting, and they're talking about what to do with this pier. They want to talk about casinos and commercial buildings, and of course they have their own idea of what's affordable, and if we're gonna and so I'm waiting and waiting and ready to bang my head up against the wall, over this conversation. And they're talking about they need, worldwide RFP, and like the world is going to really want to be interested in a pier in New York City. So they're talking about thinking bold. Well, I get my opportunity. They almost forgot about me. I get my opportunity, and it says, you want to do something bold. You do a farm over there, and you take care of all the food insecurity here. You put a huge dent in that. They're not. That's development. That's lifting people up. That's nurturing people's habitat so they can have some sanity. Um, I mean, I see it every day. I see people walking around on the streets and they're scratching themselves and they're talking to themselves. And I see people going in that direction to worsening, and I see people all the time. And, it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary that we're struggling to pay our rent. It's unnecessary we have to fight these landlords off to keep our homes. It's unnecessary that
Mhm.
Laura Jackie has to fight for her home and all that stress. They're putting that stress on everyday people. It's unnecessary and it's unhealthy. And
Yeah, we don't have mental health either. Yeah.
yeah, and we're fighting on that end too. The reason health was important in this thing, and I squeeze it in as much as I can. Um, it's the same MO. They're going in, they're stripping the healthcare, they're feeding us pills, they're making profit off of these pills, these pharma industry. They're saying no. We've heard these stories for decades about them declining care for people, and then that person's dying, leukemia or cancer or something. We've heard these stories. Movies have been made of this. I mean, this is not, and nothing's changed. It's gotten worse. The the,
Hmm.
the healthcare industry, the retirees are fighting tooth and nail, and they win. They go to court. They win. They go to court. They win, and they keep trying to push people in advantage plans. Advantage plans serve the corporate world. It's a corporate advantage plan. It serves. We should be strengthening traditional Medicare, Medicaid. But what we're doing is we're giving it up to the corporations, and everything is being sold to the corporations. And they're not, this is they strip it down. What they've done, there's when Jackie says, her apartment's great, a lot of it is good. They're built solid, but there's some problems, no question. But they're not taking care of them. They put out two proposals, $250,000 on what's needed there. Okay, instead of fixing it, $250,000, and the proposals was done by developers. And then, of course, they shortchanged them on what's needed to maintain some basic shit that excuse me, that landlords are supposed to do. You know, uh, Landlords, it's an MO. They let the place deteriorate, and then if you don't move out, they neglect it. They neglect their spaces. They ignore you, and they frustrate the people, and that's a tactic to move people out. And when then you don't pay, then you're in court. Sometimes they win. I've got an elderly lady that's um, and that had an apartment, and she lived in this apartment, one bedroom, comfortable bedroom, might be a two bedroom, I'm not sure. Um, and They pushed her into a small efficiency because there was some leak upstairs, and they didn't bother to fix it. She's been in that small efficiency apartment for 3 years, and they haven't fixed it, and they've lied about it over repeatedly. They've lied about fixing it. They've ignored it. They said the guy, upstairs, he's elderly. There's some problems that they don't want to keep fixing it. They have a duty to fix that leak. They have a duty, and in fact, they after I had some lawyers looking into it, they said that there's been some problems because the guy won't let them in. Well, he's been dead for a year, over a year. He's been dead. What the city's done is neglected these spaces, and just like all these other landlords trying to get their tenants out, we need protections, we need oversight, we need people in those DHCR. I know some people who work in DHCR. I know people who works in HPD, and they're earnest. They go in there into the jobs wanting to do the job, but they're kneecapped. They're kneecapped by the amount of workload, about the oversight, about the aggressive oversight, about the and so it's tough. And if you get a community behind an issue, they will move. But why do we have to struggle so hard to get them to move? Why do we have to struggle so hard to get these laws, and for a politician to pretend they're interested, and then once we push them, once the laws are made, then they get watered down, or they get reversed even. The 421A is a prime example. 421A, we worked hard to end that 421A. It gave tax credits to landlords, to real estate, developers, to offer for low income housing, but they weren't really offering low income housing.
Mm.
They were discriminating. They were taking the tax credit. They weren't taking care of the responsibility. Now they brought it back under the new name, and they watered down a lot of other laws that we had. The right to counsel, we were after uh, some right to counsel laws, and they watered those down. Good cause was watered down, and this is it's a constant fight. And now you got the developers. They they're they're after everything they can get because the economy is suffering, and what's coming is not pretty. And they're doubling down, and they're scraping that honey jar. They're scraping
Right.
at the clouds.
Now, John, if I have some other of these slides of the Penn Station project and some other things, maybe if I put them up, could you talk about that? Because people probably largely aren't aware of this or haven't been following it.
Yeah,
So
sure.
let's see if you can, here we go. This is the first one. Can you see that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so would you like to say what this is showing?
Yeah, these buildings, this is around Penn Station. Block 780 is where we had that event. Block 780, they want to demolish it. We've got homes and small businesses, and so they want to strip. They basically want to do a river to river commercial district. They want it to look like Hudson Yards. Bernardo owns
That's so ugly. I have to say that thing is so ugly, and they had that awful sculpture, which is so ugly, it makes people want to jump off it, and they had to close it down because so many people were committing suicide.
yeah,
It was kids. It was kids
yeah,
committing suicide, and they reopened it.
yeah,
They did reopen it? Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
man, it doesn't care. He doesn't have a care
no.
in his that related guy.
yeah.
So I'm gonna skip that, but this shows more of those maps. I see that's 34th Street down to 30th. So I guess this is the area where we were here, right? 30th
Right.
between 8th and 9th. And then there's another,
We were between 7th and 8th.
oh, 7th and 8th. Okay. This was the old Penn Station. Do you want to say something about this?
Well, you've seen them in pictures, and John, when you bring John on, I think you're going to have John Massengale on at one point, but
Mhm.
he's a real historic, uh, buff, and he's really into architecture. But yeah, they did the same thing. They stripped, they decided they want to demolish this, and good structure. And they even still have columns and all this structure somewhere. I forgot where they have them stored. And I think at one point we were advocating to bring those same structures back because they had the archways, the architecture was beautiful. And so
I think I have some pictures here.
yeah, they end up demolishing that. This was
And I
seen.
understand this building was so solid, it took them 4 years to take it apart.
Can you imagine? It's supposed to be, you're supposed to destroy dilapidated buildings, and they take this structure and they had to take 4 years to demolish it. Columns, Corinthian columns, and yeah, beautiful work of art seen in films. I mean, you can see this work in so many films. Um, it's sad. And look at the air and the skylights and the coming in and the space. I mean, it was like a Grand Central. It was like a transportation should be. Um, Impressive, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a really beautiful.
And look what
That
we
was,
do now. We go underground. We get like rats. We got a stadium above us. Um, we've been trying to get that stadium moved. We've wanted to have that stadium moved so we can bring that that we've got several different architectural drawings we looked at and we had in our forums.
Mm.
And some of them are really quite interesting and fantastic. Lots of green spaces, but I think you need that stadium
Oh,
removed.
I do. Now look, I want to just show this other, all right, this church, right? Isn't this something that's about to be demolished? Or that's in their plans?
Yeah, if they do 780, if they do what they want with 780, yes, that's one of the um, on that 30th Street block that would go.
Mm.
And churches, it's got the architecture and the solid way they've been built and the history behind it, and that's what people come. If you're a tourist, you come and you look at this interesting architect. You come, and you look at these little iconic, emblems of New York City. I can't see people coming and just wanting to take. You see one glass building, you see them all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine them?
No, and I think it actually has an effect on people, not that recently, but maybe 10 or 15 years ago. I hadn't been in DC since I was a young child, and then we lived there for a while. And I went into the Capitol and the old Library of Congress building, and these buildings are so beautiful. And you say, how can people come in here, work in here, and do the ugly things that they do when they're surrounded by this beautiful architecture, which really says something about what it means to be human?
Yeah,
There's no animal, the ants don't make things that are beautiful like this, but human beings do, and we should protect that. We should cherish that.
yeah. So yeah, I told them when they were talking, even thinking about this. I've been in several meetings, and when they told me, they tell on themselves in a lot of ways. Like for instance, they said we've been thinking about this for 30 years, this whole demolition project, and they and no thought of housing for people. Community yells. So what they do is they placate us and offer us a little drop in the bucket for a little housing. I mean, they're missing the point. They're really missing the point when it comes to development. They're missing the point when they run people and gentrify people out of the city, and they, I don't know, they get hung up on this idealized construction sometimes, and like it seems like a fad. I mean, if you can't solve uh, if you can't solve the homelessness problem with all this money you're putting in development, then you shouldn't be allowed to develop. And
I think you're right. Absolutely. Or you can't solve the homelessness, but you have $200 billion to send to Ukraine so they can, run
yeah,
up against Russia. Ukraine has lost about 600,000 people. Russia's lost, I don't know, 80,000 or some number. And it's incredibly destructive. Or you have the situation in Gaza and now the West Bank, and now what Israel is doing with all of the money that we send there just for destruction,
yeah.
when for even a fraction of that, I can't believe you said that for the Fulton homes, it was $250,000 for some number of repairs.
No, the proposal alone was $250,000
Okay,
they did it twice. They did two proposals on what it would take, and the developers wrote this proposal up. 250,000 it cost to do the proposal.
I see.
So
Right.
so
Because
they're
I
not,
understand NYCHA overall, the last figure I heard was something like $78 billion that there are arrears and repairs. And I just heard this New York City subway is something like $68 billion. You realize those two figures combined are less than what we have sent to Ukraine.
yeah, and if they do that to those people over there, they don't care about us. They
Right.
have no interest in they're just doing it. They're just being a little more polite to us. And you give them the opportunity. I mean, who's over there eager, ready to invest? It's the developers. It's the same people, BlackRock, Blackstone, all of them.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. BlackRock owns about a third of Ukraine now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if they get their hands on it, and I'm praying they don't. I'm praying they lose it. I'm praying that I don't know how that's going to work out. Who knows? But I mean, if what we do over there is reflection of how they they're going to do, or what they're doing to us and their relationship to us. It's kind of amazing. People don't connect the two, and it's kind of amazing that sometimes we get into our little bubbles and we want to fight for our, uh, building and then people are fighting over here. I mean, like right now, if I don't know if you remember Audrey, who spoke at our event, but she lives in Chinatown and she's with the Youth Against Displacement, and she's also working in the Lower East Side, the Two Bridges area, and 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 she's been fighting against the placement of a prison system. Why are we building prisons? And they pick out these places because they feel like they can, usher in a prison in Chinatown that they have less pushback. They, you know, I mean, building prisons, we should be getting rid of the prisons. And the only way to do that is uplift the community. And the only way to do that is to build for the community. And I mean, uh, Jackie and all those folks over there, I mean, that's a good fight. That's a wonderful fight, and we should all be interested in it. And we should all be coalescing to do it. And then, of course, the Midtown Penn area, anywhere there's development that's taking place, that's where we should learn more about. I mean, they've destroyed so many areas in the city. They've gotten their way. We've been lucky in some spots. They got problems down in Battery Park. They had problems in the east side. And we have to get together as a whole city, somehow find a way to coalesce. And that's what that event was about too. And it's really super important that we all get together. And I'm super pleased that I met you and Jose, and you have an independent mind, and you're on an independent ticket, and you have quite a bit of team behind you, and you got people behind you, and you got so these connections are important. Whether I'm sitting here, I don't know if you know this, but I'm sitting here in People's Forum. My internet went out. Uh,
Oh,
we did our forums here. They've been fighting the good fight. They're in Washington fighting for the Palestinian cause. They've been rallying around the city. I've been with them on the rallies. It was a great. They're really outfitted nicely. We've had the 4 forums or series here, um, and they have a lot of young people. And I try to get the Columbia students to that event, and I wanted their voices out there because, and I've spoken up about them. In situations where I had a moment, the Columbia students trying to shut them down. I
right.
mean, it's beautiful.
On that, the Columbia situation, I just have to say, because there's been such an increase of censorship, and you probably have heard the recent quotes from Hillary Clinton where she was gracious enough to say that we could vote. You couldn't, unfortunately, you can't stop people from voting how they want, she said. But we have to control the narrative. We have to make sure that everyone knows it's the end of the world if Trump gets elected, but it's not the end of the world if we have a nuclear war with Russia, apparently. And then and she's a professor at Columbia. She's there. 5 professors, I believe, have now been fired for speaking out against the genocide in Gaza. But Hillary is at Columbia, who presided over the slaughter in Libya,
Yeah,
and unleashing hundreds of thousands of poor refugees and tens of thousands to drown in the Mediterranean because of what she did in Libya. And now she's joined by Victoria Nuland, and I'm waiting to see who's going to be the third of the Macbethian witches that ends up in that department. But Victoria Nuland brags. Not only did she publicly admit that they have bio research laboratories in Ukraine, but she also bragged about how she shut down the March-April 2022 talks, which would have ended the Ukraine-Russia war. Ukraine would have had a lot more of its territory left. They would have been neutral. A lot more people would still be alive. So the fact that this institution can have people of such sinister quality teaching there, but if you object to the mass murder of innocent people, particularly children, you will be expelled, fired, arrested, etc.
Yeah, she's such a vile creature. I mean, like
I
really,
know.
she's really vile. And to give her a platform, it's like it shows the people who are giving the platform what we're up against, really. We have to take those cues. I mean, if they're going to push her on the main stage to have that conversation and to talk about even imprisoning people for their tweets,
Right.
yeah, they're
Yep.
planting seeds.
Right.
These,
Right. Now, before we go, I promised Jacqueline, and Jacqueline, I want to go back to you and see if you have any other thoughts, but I think I got this thing up from the ballot that you asked so people can see it. I'm going to just share it here and maybe Dave can zoom in a little bit. Let's see here.
That's the back of it.
This is the back of the ballot. It's in the left corner. And you can see the proposal number 1, an amendment to protect against unequal treatment. It sounds so rosy and nice, right?
always does.
This proposal would protect against unequal treatment based on ethnicity, national origin, age, blah, blah. So what it really means is, I don't even want to say there might be children watching this show, but it means terrible things and no protection for children. They're going to say you're qualified to make decisions when you're 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And all of these protections already exist. They're in the US Constitution, they're in the state constitution, state laws. This is very deceptive. And I just want to say again, everyone has to vote no. And you have to turn over your ballot and find this thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
I
you for
should put
sharing
that,
that.
yeah, I
Yeah,
should put that out in
that
the newsletter.
yeah, that's how it looks. But
Yes,
Jacqueline,
John. Okay. Hi. Okay. I'm sorry. Hmm.
go ahead. Do you have anything, Jacqueline, you want to add or say as we wrap?
Yeah, I just looking forward to hoping seeing everybody at the press conference October 10th. And it's just, I don't know what to say. I mean, I've prayed, I've begged, and it's just emotional what these people want to do to my home. And I'm just gonna fight to the end. That's all I have to say. That's it.
Well, we're with you and we'll be with you. And I would like to come down there and visit and see the place. And
Oh, beautiful. I could even
yeah,
show you my home, and you could see that there's absolutely nothing. Yes, we do need repairs. We've been neglected since the Blasio administration. So of course, but you know, it's nothing to demolish. It's
no,
absolutely
let's
nothing.
we should get the word out for sure. Absolutely. So I really want to thank you and John for being here. Let me just announce a couple upcoming events. You said the press conference that you're holding October 10th on
That's the
28th. The 28th of September, there were 2 very important anti-war rallies. There's one in Kingston, New York, which is being hosted by Gerald Celente and Scott Ritter, Max Blumenthal, Anya Parampil, and Judge Napolitano will be speaking there. There will be a SARE for Senate presence at that rally with a campaign table. And I think it's 2 to 5 or something like that. You can look, it's Occupy Peace and Freedom, I think is the website. So that's Kingston, New York on the 28th. Then also on the 28th is the second Rage Against the War Machine rally in Washington, D.C. This time, I believe it's at the Washington Monument or between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln. That's also on the 28th. And there are a number of people who will be speaking their anti-war leaders. And then on the 29th is the Rescue the Republic rally in Washington, D.C., which at which Tulsi Gabbard, I think Robert Kennedy Jr., Colonel Doug McGregor, someone who interviewed me, who's been quite outspoken both against the Ukraine war and the genocide in Gaza. And I think that also will be important. I would say that, oh, and then finally, please, everyone put this on your calendar, October 19th, there is going to be a sort of indoor peace rally concert gala hosted by Sarah for Senate and Vega for Congress. It's going to be at a large hall in the city, October 19th from 2 to 6 p.m. And we are going to have classical music. There are Sarah Vega Chorus, which performed on 30th Street, made its little debut. It'll be twice as big. Will be performing there. And then again, very well-known anti-war military and intelligence professionals like Scott Ritter and others will be joining us for that. And the tickets will be a donation of $50, but if people can give more, the campaign's really needed as we go into the final sprint. But the point is, how do we pull people together and ennoble people to be ready for a fight? I don't think we can fight hatred and war with ugliness and rage. I think we really have to get into the realm of Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the power of nonviolence. And remember, he called it nonviolent direct action. It was not nonviolent passivity. It was not nonviolent silence. It was nonviolent direct action, which is planning how to defeat an enemy which is very evil. And as we see, a big part of the evil that we're up against today is to try and control how and what people think, not only what we think about the world, but what we think about each other. And that is something that we cannot allow. We cannot allow ourselves to be divided so a teeny little 1/100th of a percentage of the world's population can annihilate us.
Right.
And so this October 19th event is going to be very special. And I hope everyone watching can attend.
I won't be available for the 28th because I have my own protest. I have a protest just to shake the tree a little bit, just to have
Good.
presidents ready for the press conference to see who's going to be joining us. So yeah, about 1 o'clock we should be protesting, making noise out there.
Okay, good. The more the better.
Yeah, we have to wake them up because everybody's asleep right now thinking nothing's going to happen, but it's still on the table, the demolition. They've just been very quiet about it.
Well, that's important. So you wake up your residents.
Yes.
And someday maybe I'll come down there with my trombone. Maybe that'll help.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. Thank
My
you.
bullhorn. Yeah. So thank you both very much. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you
for
for the invitation.
watching. Don't forget on Monday, whichever of the 62 counties you live in, well, there's, I guess, a few counties that are part of New York City, go to your Board of Elections and demand to inspect the ballots. That is your right. We want them to know that we are watching.
Yeah, that ballot is very important because we were just talking about that yesterday. And they said it was something different back there. So you just woke me up with that. So thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So good night and
Good
thank you so
night.
much. And I'll see you very soon.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thanks, John. Thanks, everybody else. Have a good night.
Yeah, thanks to you all.
Bye.
Bye.